This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrow and Sully Crotty. Sully, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. We'll take a little, as usual, review of some of the stakes action from yesterday. A little light. There's a little lull in the action the last couple of weeks until we get to really the middle of this week and some of that Thanksgiving week stakes action, which gets things going a little bit again after, as I say, like a 2-weekend lull after the Breeders' Cup. So we'll do a little recap of some of the stakes that were run yesterday, but a little preview also of some of that action that kicks off the Thanksgiving week stakes action, because Zia Park has some nice stakes on Wednesday and Penn National has some nice stakes as well. So I just thought we'd give you a head start on those. Those come up Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, but then Thanksgiving week, traditionally, some pretty good stakes action, so it'll kick back in. We'll also do a little handicapping for today, give you some ideas for Sunday afternoon, hopefully put a little money in your pocket, and then towards the end of the program, going to be joined by Chad Summers. I thought we'd reach out to him and have a little reflection on the career of Mind Your Biscuits. It was announced earlier this week that the richest New York bred in history is going to be retired. They went to the track and worked out, and they were anticipating maybe one more start in the Cigar Mile or the Clark. But the workout just seemed to indicate the horse maybe hadn't bounced back from the Breeders' Cup the way they would have liked. And so off to stud in Japan. And so I thought, as I say, catch up with Chad Summers and just talk a little bit about Mind Your Biscuits and how it affected him and his career, and his family was part of the ownership group as well. So we'll do that towards the end of the program today.
Yeah, absolutely looking forward to that. And as you said, the richest New York bred of all time. So just a really cool story as well. You know, I believe the horse was bought for $30,000, and then turned out the horse ended up winning over $4 million. So just a really cool story. And again,
Nice turnaround there.
Yeah, very nice return on your investment there. So congrats to Chad Summers and all the connections there.
Yeah, and again, we'll catch up with Chad about 20 of, something like that. So stay tuned for that. All right, let's jump into the stakes action. And again, it's been kind of a lull the past couple of weeks. Not only that, weather, unfortunately, has been affecting things. I mean, I was in here on Thursday doing OTV Live. Laurel canceled before they got underway. Aqueduct canceled about halfway, and about the middle of the program, it was snowing to beat the band down at Churchill Downs. Things were affected yesterday as well with the Red Smith, which was shaping up to be a really nice turf stake, wound up getting moved to the main track. But we'll watch the stretch run just because it's a little bit interesting in here. There were a couple of main track onlys entered, and Exalting, hats off to Kieran and the Godolphin people, Exalting the number 15 was right there vying for the lead for the second weekend in a row. They tried to come in MTO and capture a stake. That one gets swallowed up a little bit late, though. And down on the inside, it will be the number 2, Village King, getting it done for Todd Pletcher. This is a horse that throughout the career had been mostly on turf. Last couple of starts here in the United States, a little earlier down in Argentina, but as I handicapped yesterday, I used the 2 MTOs on top. I said, you know what, Village King's kind of interesting because it does have that dirt experience down in Argentina. It was a win in a maiden race, but I was kind of trusting Todd leaving the horse in, and so I thought the horse might be a little bit of a player in here, and does get it done just barely over Solio. Boy, you see there, and when I say just barely, I mean just barely. If you had Solio, you had to really kind of be kicking and screaming at that photo, but it is number 2, Village King, $11.80 on the move to the main track.
Yeah, and you see this a lot with Todd. He'll leave these horses in, and they usually run well, and you got a nice price, as you said, almost $12 there. But watching that live, I thought the 5 and Johnny V got up and got past because Johnny V's getting close, I think, to 6,000. I believe
he's also up at Woodbine today, which is interesting for their feature race.
Right. So, and that, as we know, he has had some success up there with the Mark Cassidy trainees. So, wish him the best of luck. But watching that live, I thought the 5 got up there. But that's whenever you can get $12 on the Todd Pletcher Javier combination, I think you're making out okay.
Yeah, it wound up to be after scratches a field of 6 with a couple of MTOs, but one of the horses entered for the body of the field, gets it done. Village King in the Red Smith. Staying on the turf, however, was the River City down at Churchill Downs. I said, when I handicapped, this is a race the year in and year out. It's a grade 3, but I always pay attention to it. The horses, as they move off to different venues, maybe down to Florida or whatever, it seems to be a productive race every year with the horses coming out of it. Now, this year, I'm not exactly sure that will hold up because it did wind up to be a little scratch reduced. It was an original field of 8 scheduled, 3 scratches, so it winds up to be a field of 5. I like Mr. Misunderstood. The betting public liked Mr. Misunderstood. I had big changes underneath, and it winds up that way under the wire, which means it was a Brad Cox exacta in here in the River City. Mr. Misunderstood is the number 3 and makes the move in the stretch and kind of gets the lead and goes by big changes. Chart margin is a half a length at the end. They're well clear of the 3rd place finisher. Sir Dudley Diggs wound up 4th in this group. But again, Mr. Misunderstood, just a bona fide stakes quality performer on the turf for Brad Cox. Maybe a little bit tough last time in the Shadwell Turf Mile. That's a year in and year out, a pretty tough grade 1 event. But this River City, as I say, to me, year in and year out, produces runners who you can watch in their next couple of starts. This was a scratch-reduced field, but I think these two, Mr. Misunderstood and big changes. Watch where the Brad Cox takes them this winter, and they'll be worth paying attention to in their next couple of starts, I think.
Absolutely. Mr. Misunderstood, I think, is now 11 for 16 or 12 for 16 on the turf after that win. So a horse that just loves the turf track. And
4 for 4 on the Churchill turf.
4 for 4 at Churchill. I remember the horse Mr. Misunderstood won on Stephen Foster night, getting up to beat Mr. Cub by a nose. But much the best in that field. And I think the horse can definitely step up a little bit, especially if the horse runs on the grass again at Churchill Downs. As you said, 4 for 4 over that surface.
And a Brad Cox exacta, and it was interesting. Breeders' Cup weekend. Brad came out on the track and had the post-race interview at one point, and I forget who it was now, the NBC correspondent, but whoever it was said, it's time to stop calling you the up-and-coming Brad Cox. He has announced himself, certainly this year, with Monomoy Girl, but well beyond that. Clearly the racing world has recognized him, and a lot of good horses in his barn now, and it is time to, I guess, stop using up-and-coming when talking to Brad Cox. Also wanted to pull up the stake from Fairgrounds yesterday, the High Tide. It was only a $50,000 stake, and it was also for state breds. But they have a good state bred program down there the entire season, and they have a good sprint stakes schedule. So the winner of this race, it was 6 furlongs, so the winner could appear in any of those, either the Louisiana bred type stakes or maybe the open sprint stakes. Talked with Ryan Martin from Fairgrounds yesterday to get a little bit of a preview. He's the media coordinator, but also doing some of the paddock commentating currently before Joe Christofek moves down when Churchill winds up their meet. And we talked about this race, and we talked about Monty Man. And Ryan pointed out, and I hadn't noticed it at first, Monty Man was claimed just a little over a year ago for $25,000. Since then, 7 straight wins. This is the 6th win this year, 6 for 6. Went into the race yesterday with $216,000 in the bank, adds the better part of the $50,000 purses. This is the one-horse Monty Man getting it done pretty easily here as the 1-2 favorite. Really no sweating that one out down the stretch. But again, I wanted to show that because he'll be worth paying attention to the remainder of the meet, as he will certainly show up, 2 or 3 times perhaps before the fairground meet ends. But also just because, pretty good story. They picked the horse up for $25,000, and since then, I mean, they're closing in on $300,000. We talked about Mind Your Biscuits.
Right.
Yeah, turning $30,000 or $40,000 into $4 million is very, very good. But $30,000 into $250,000 or $300,000, pretty good claim, pretty crafty claim.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we see that more and more as the horse racing year goes on. There was a couple horses at Oaklawn I remember were claimed and went on to win a couple stakes races, making that kind of money. So definitely a nice ROI, as you said, when you can claim a horse for $25,000, and then now the horse is making towards $300,000. So going to be interesting to see if they try to go up in class a little bit. Definitely can after that performance. Made it look pretty easy, much the best yesterday.
And again, they have a pretty nice sprint series for open horses down there too, which I think kicks off. There's I think a Thanksgiving Day sprint stake that kind of kicks off their sprint schedule. And again, it continues to the rest of the season with 2 or 3 or 4 nice sprint stakes before the end of the meet. Out in Southern California, this time of year, you always like to pay attention to the 2-year-olds and the way things have gone on the 3-year-old scene the last few years. Like to pay extra attention to the 2-year-olds from Southern California. They ran the Bob Hope out at Del Mar yesterday. Grade 3 event, $100,000 up for grabs, 7 furlongs the trip. The 4 to 5 favorite was Mucho Gusto for who else? Bob Baffert. Mucho Gusto is going to be the number 3 horse. Came out of a maiden breaker in the career debut at Los Al on September 20th. So now 2 for 2 under Joe Talamo. And again, Mucho Gusto is the number 3 horse. Savagery, number 4, runs second for Peter Miller. And Sparkyville runs third. But again, at 4 to 5, Mucho Gusto gets it done. Length and a half is the chart margin, 123 and change there. So, hey, surprise, surprise. Bob Baffert with a nice-looking 2-year-old heading into the 3-year-old season in about, 5-6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, I believe that's a new headline. Bob Baffert now has a nice 2-year-old again. So, but yeah, really nice performance there. And Joe Talamo hopefully continues, gets the mounts on this one. But really impressive win. Would like to see how the horse does on a little bit deeper of a field, but really looked impressive yesterday for Bob Baffert.
Yeah, and again, it's that time of year where you like to pay a little bit of attention to those 2-year-olds. And as I say, it's only a few weeks before they turn 3. All right, again, I said the Thanksgiving weekend action kind of kicks off on Wednesday out at Zia Park. They have a nice stakes day out there, and Penn National also has a nice set of stakes on Wednesday. So I thought we'd just kind of preview those and get you in the frame of mind, as the live programming won't be back to kind of preview it before then necessarily. So Zia on Wednesday, Zia Park Championship handicap, $150,000 up for grabs. That'll go off a little after 5 o'clock our time on Wednesday. Field of 8 scheduled. I pulled up the Remington Park Oklahoma Classics Cup from October 19th. The winner will be number 5, Shotgun Cowboy. Shotgun Cowboy, a 6-year-old with well over $1 million in the bank. C.R. Trout, the trainer, a Midwestern-based guy who has really kind of bounced around the Midwest with this horse and just picked off purses like this one out at Remington. This was, $175,000. Pretty good purse out there for state breds on the Oklahoma Classics card there in, again, the middle of October. But 13 wins, 13 wins, potentially 14 wins on Wednesday, but 13 for 31, $1.3 million in the bank. A horse that has some positional speed. That race we saw was pretty much a wire-to-wire job in a field of 5. He's interesting, but I think Forever Mo is in here. Pinson has some early speed too and may lock up with Shotgun Cowboy a little bit. The horse that certainly will take, Shotgun Cowboy is 8 to 5 on the morning line. The horse that will attract the next most attention, you would think, is Forever Mo, being a horse coming out of a second place finish and also a Remington stake for Steve Asmussen. And just with the connections, Robertino Diodoro has Patriots Rule in here, coming down from Canterbury a little bit earlier this season. Harlan Punch also potentially has a little bit of a shot in here as well. Earlier had been trained by David Jacobson, now trained by Justin Evans. But again, some familiar names, and Shotgun Cowboy to me, kind of interesting. Again, on a horse that might not be familiar to people, but has been bouncing around that Midwest circuit, and that's why the horse may not be familiar. And you put $1 million in the bank, you got some talent.
Yeah. As you said, definitely some talent there. And the one thing about Zia that can be interesting, you look at the past performances. There's some trainers that we're familiar with in the NYRA circuit, as you said, with Diodoro and with Steve Asmussen. And Steve Asmussen, I last night at Remington, I think had a $28 horse, which is great. And then Diodoro does a really nice job up at Canterbury. So it's interesting. So those cards are going to be great the day before Thanksgiving, especially if you take a look at them, you'll see some familiar names in there.
Also, Zia, the Zia Park Oaks, field of 7 in here. There's an even money favorite from Steve Asmussen. She's a Julie coming in off a win in the Remington Park Oaks. So that's a nice little stakes race on the card as well. And then the 10th race Wednesday at Zia, which our time, a little after 6 o'clock. And in the 10th race, I'm going to be interested to see, because folks who were watching earlier this year along the Derby Trail, I liked Combatant, and he just never really lived up to the confidence or the dreams I had in him. But it is a nice runner from Steve Asmussen, who it seems like now they're kind of getting a little bit realistic and shopping around. The most recent start for that one was the Oklahoma Derby. Disappointed there, 5-1, so kind of ran to the odds, I suppose, but disappointed. I thought maybe that would be a nice spot. Wound up an okay 4th after having been way in the back of the pack early, so showed a little closing punch. But Combatant is interesting to me. But I did pull up the most recent race from Airstrike. We're going back to Santa Anita on October 8th. Airstrike is going to be the number 7 horse. This is an optional claimer, so 2 races back broke the maiden, and again, Airstrike, the number 7, in this race gets an optional claimer and start number 5 in the career. It seems like the horse has turned the corner in the last couple of starts. Comes in from Southern California, but does get a little bit of a class test Wednesday afternoon. So Airstrike, interesting. Sky Promise also for Robertino Diodoro. This one, I think I talked to Robertino Diodoro when we had him on up at Saratoga about this horse, because I believe it was after he had won that race at Assiniboia, if I'm pronouncing that right, up in Canada, the Manitoba Derby, and subsequently won the Canadian Derby, and then the British Columbia Derby last time at Hastings. Some derbies that may be unfamiliar to those of us down here, but kind of bouncing around some of the alternative tracks up in Canada, and now is on a 3-race win streak, coming back down south of the border, as it were, trying that Zia Park Derby on Saturday afternoon. As I say, nice little field of 9 scheduled in there.
Yeah, definitely. When I know personally, I'm going to look for somewhere to play where there's some good competition. As you said, there's good competition at Zia on that Wednesday, leading up to an absolutely a really nice stakes weekend after Thanksgiving. So definitely the Zia Park the day before Thanksgiving, and now Penn National as well. Definitely take a look at those. As Seth just went over, those are really nice fields Wednesday afternoon.
No question about it. And then a little bit later on, Penn National has some stakes. The Blue Mountain Juvenile Fillies will be race 2 at Penn National. Again, they kick off a little bit later, but right around dinner time for us or so. Penn National's 3rd race, the Swatara, and I just wanted to give you a little heads up. A race that every year is kind of interesting. Ben's Cat used to show up in this one. The Fabulous Strike at Penn National the day before Thanksgiving. $200,000 up for grabs, 6 furlongs. Nice field of sprinters scheduled for this one, and being that it is at Penn National on the East Coast, there are some familiar names in here. Life in Shambles for Jason Service takes his shot at the $200,000 pot. Lewisfield comes over from a win most recently in the Maryland Millions Sprint at Laurel. I pulled up another Laurel race, October 21st, little allowance optional claimer, And the winner there will be Mesotherm, the number 8 horse. Wins pretty easily, and here's the 2-5 favorite. Again, an allowance optional claimer. Comes over for Lacey Gaudette. And off of this race, and the numbers this horse is firing, at the 6-1 morning line, Mesotherm might be a little bit interesting. This is the 4th win in 6 career starts. The other 2 starts were 2nd and a 3rd, so the horse has always been in the hunt. But coming off of this effort, moving in the right direction buyer-wise, gets in, as I say, with a horse like Life in Shambles in here in Lewisfield. It's a salty little field on Wednesday at Penn National, but Mesotherm at a little bit of value might be interesting.
Excuse me. Yeah, the 6-1 after watching that replay, definitely take advantage of that. But as you said, Lewisfield's another horse that I have used in the past and got a pretty nice value with. But I agree that price on Mesotherm you might want to play around with just a little bit.
Should be fun. And again, just wanted to give you a little heads up on some of the nice stakes action that will essentially kick off that Thanksgiving weekend. When some of the more prominent venues will be racing very, very nice stakes action. But things will kick off a little bit with some stakes at Zia and Penn National on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, do a little handicapping for this afternoon. A little bit later on, Chad Summers, reflections of the career of Mind Your Biscuits. All that coming up right after this. Stay tuned.
To me, it's a privilege to be able to do this, and I mean that sincerely. And we see the need for it more and more. And when you do see the people that are in line for the turkeys, it makes it all well worth it.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
To me, it's a privilege to be able to do this, and I mean that sincerely. And we see the need for it more and more. And when you do see the people that are in line for the turkeys, it makes it all well worth it.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. We're going to take a look at some action for Sunday afternoon, give you some hints on where to potentially look and make a little money to cap off your weekend. And we'll kick things off at Churchill Downs, at Churchill's 9th race on Sunday afternoon, scheduled on the turf. An allowance non-winners of 1 other than at a mile. Sully, your thoughts in the 9th at Churchill?
2, 7, 3, and 8, and it's a really deep field here. There's a lot of AEs, so stay aware of that. I went with 2, 7, 3, and 8. I went with Jaunt on top, a horse that we're familiar with here in the Naira circuit, and a horse that 3 back looked great at the allowance level, took a little bit of money because of that performance. Second time out at Saratoga and really didn't do any running at all. Went to Belmont on an off track, and at the mile and the 16th, really, I thought that was a little bit too much to ask for. They go back to the mile where the horse again ran great at Saratoga. Really should have won that race, lost by 1.5 lengths, was 12 lengths off the lead that day, but had a perfect setup with the quick fractions. And there's a lot of speed in this race, so the fractions should be quick. Jaunt just cannot be 12 lengths off the lead. Albin Jimenez will be aboard for Shug McGahee. We'll use that horse on top at 6-1. The number 7 is Oh Mine. Ricardo Santana is up for Steve Asmussen. This is a horse that's going to be towards the front end setting those fractions. Ran at Keeneland, came in 3rd that day at 48.5. Really, I thought should have got up. Lost to a nice horse in Cloak of Secrecy, and lost 2 starts back before leaving before going into the Asmussen barn. Came in second by half a length that day. Really should have wired that field, but this is a horse that's has consistently ran quick fractions. And with the amount of speed in here, I think it sets up for some closers in here. But Oh My usually does a nice job of running pretty gutsy races and running in the money. 4-1 offers a little bit of value for some nice connections. And then the number 3 horse, 3-1 on the morning line. Mark Cassidy and Florent Giroux are teaming up. And this is a horse that also has some closing speed. So hopefully the pace will break down. We have the 2 and the 3. That's some nice prices flying home. This horse raced at Keeneland and 2 back at Kentucky Downs. Came in second that day as the favorite, and then was the favorite at Keeneland. Just really couldn't get it done. So this horse has been the favorite 3 starts in a row. I'm going to use underneath, and really has not gotten it done. Should have gotten it done 3 starts back at Ellis. So at 3-1, I'm going to use underneath. I like the closing speed in this race. Very deep field with a lot of AEs. I went 2, 7, 3, and 8. Seth is going to look at a couple races in New York. He's going to start with race number 5 at Aqueduct. This is a maiden special weight for 2-year-old fillies. They're going 6 furlongs.
And in the 5th at Aqueduct, I have a 3, 7, 2, and 6. The number 3 is White Mischief. I like Into Mischief with first-time starters. Then you toss in well over $700,000 paid for this horse. Chad Brown trains. You would think this one's going to be live coming out of the box. I include this because it's 2-1, and with a 9-horse field, maybe we'll get that. I think with Chad and the price and the breeding, this is going to come down a few ticks, but I just didn't want to leave it out in case you do get that value, because at 2-1, I think this is a pretty solid price for a horse that could turn out to be very, very nice. Second spot, Romantic Pursuit. It's Kieran. It's Godolphin. By Medaglia d'Oro. So again, potent connections that can win early, a little bit of breeding underneath the dam, questing. So this is kind of a blue-blooded horse with the breeding from Godolphin. Romantic Pursuit at 9-2, also in my mix. And Angelia in the 3rd spot. Todd Pletcher trainee that put in an okay debut. I mean, it was 5th. It wasn't inspiring. Had a little trouble at the break there. That was the notable situation with some of the 2-year-olds up at Saratoga in the Chad barn, but has been off since then. And I just have a feeling that improvement will be expected this afternoon. Triumphant for Mark Hennig and Cortland Farm, also interesting to me in the career debut. So again, 5th at Aqueduct for me. It's 3, 7, 2, and 6. And just going back to that 9th race at Churchill you just looked at, as I'm flipping through the pages and kind of, it's continuing. There's a 19 horse listed on the MTO list. I would love to have this one get washed off the turf just so that one gets in. Mm-hmm. I'm curious what color. Will it be like somebody's drawn it on with a marker? Right. Do they even have a 9? Well, at Churchill, of course, they do. Now that I think about it, because with the Derby. But 19 in there, or a 19 horse in there potentially. All right, let's move on to the 10th at Churchill on Sunday afternoon. Maiden claimers $12,500 to $15,000. The 1-turn mile, race 10 at Churchill.
12, 5, 6, and 10 for me here. I went with the 12 on top. I like the Indiana Grand Shippers in there on these light claimers, and they've been running well throughout the entire meet. So this is a horse coming in that ran for a 32 tag at Indiana Grand. Didn't do too much running that day, but that was on the grass. They're going to switch this horse back to the dirt, where the horse ran well at Indiana, came in a nice 2nd place, but at Ellis Park, came in 2nd on the grass. So the horse has potential on the grass, but I thought the best running of the career on, or better running on the dirt surface against a pretty decent field at Indiana Grand. This is a horse that wants nothing to do with the pace. We saw the horse 9 lengths off the lead at Ellis and ended up finishing 2nd that day at a huge price. So you're getting a nice price at 9-2. The number 5 horse is Tessie Kitten. This is a horse that I feel like is just going to take all the money. And this is a horse going out for Mike Maker and the Ramseys. And very rarely do you see the Ramseys put a horse up for a 12-5 tag. So that just puts up a couple question marks for me. Obviously, the horse dropping down, continuously dropping down in the claiming level or the maiden level. You know, I think the horse can run a big race at 7-2, and the connection's putting the horse up for 12-5. I'm going to try to beat the horse in here, but you do get Tyler Gaffalione aboard, who's had a nice meet at Churchill as well. And then the number 6 horse, Ricardo Santana and Steve Asmussen once again teaming up, another horse that keeps dropping at this level. I thought was a little over its head at that Keeneland race. Came in 8th that day, and I think this horse just needs to break better. This horse does have some speed, some nice workouts that shows this horse has some speed. Broke well at Ellis, came in 3rd that day. I think the horse breaks well and gets to the lead. 6-1 is a very nice price for a horse that has a lot of speed and a cheap claiming race. So in the 10th for me at Churchill Downs, I went 12, 5, 6, and 10. Seth's going to look at Aqueduct's 7th race. This is a New York Stallion Series stakes race. They're going 7 furlongs.
I have it 7, 3, 4, and 2. And again, it's the feature race, so it's kind of logical. The horse I have on top, but I did want to take a look at the feature. Gold for the King goes out for Charlie Baker. 3 races back away, a nice triple-digit buyer. The 2 races since then have been nice improving efforts. The Hudson second-place finish last time, I think, has the horse primed to run well this afternoon. So I'll put Gold for the King on top. Also a good record overall at Aqueduct. 3 wins in 4 starts, so I might appreciate the return to the other New York track. Second spot, I'll go with my boy Tate. Going to have to rebound off the last couple of starts, but I think on a better number, this horse certainly fits very well. And I think we may get a rebound with yet another horse who really likes Aqueduct. 4 wins in 5 starts at that location. And Jose Ortiz on board Loki's Vengeance for Linda Rice, coming out of a race most recently in April. So that's the question mark, but comes back, shows a first-time gelding symbol. Linda Rice can certainly have him ready to run off a layoff like this. We'll see if Loki's Vengeance can maybe come back off the layoff and be a contender. And what is a pretty evenly matched field, really. I mean, I think Gold for the King is going to take the action, and really off some of the numbers in the past 3 starts probably deserves that. But I think it's maybe more open than just relying, that wouldn't necessarily be a single for me on pick plays. But in the Aqueduct 7th, I have it 7, 3, 4, and 2. Sully's going to take a look at the feature today down at Fairgrounds. They're 3 days into their meet. Kick things off on Thursday. The feature today, race number 8, the Happy Ticket.
7, 1, 8, and 5 here, and I went with Dixie Breeze on top. This is another sprint race, and every other horse wants to get to the lead except for Dixie Breeze. Adam Beschizza is back in town after he had a fantastic meet at the Fairgrounds last year, and he's already got 3 wins in the short meet. So this is a horse, again, that wants nothing to do with the lead. A horse that last time out ran a little bit differently than we're used to. Actually tried to get to the lead and finished second, but 2 and 3 back. This is a horse that shows some nice closing speed from a stalking roll. Again, there is a lot of speed in here. I'm going to go with the closing speed of Dixie Breeze. The number 1 horse is My Mischief. 5-2 on the morning line. Al Stall trains. Al, really nice meet up to this point. Just has not found the winner circle. 6 for 9 in the money. A horse that's raced consistently in some stakes races ever since winning an optional claimer by 7 lengths last March. And a horse that's 4 for 4 over the Fairgrounds surface. So we saw the horse at last springtime at Aqueduct in a stakes race. Really didn't do too much running there, but came in second at Delta in a state bred stakes and was a winner at Fairgrounds 3 starts back. So I'm interested to see how the horse runs on a fast track again. Off that layoff, Al Stall's winning 30% of his races. And then the number 8 horse in the 3rd spot is Ours to Run. Larry Jones trains, and this is a horse that won a stakes race last time out. Went to Keeneland on a yielding turf course. Really didn't do too much running, but going back to the dirt where the horse has had some success sprinting, 3 for 5 in the money, and a stakes winner last time out from the outside stall. You get Gabe Zayas aboard, who's off to a nice start as well, 25% winning percentage for Gabe Zayas. So in race 8 at the Fairgrounds, I went 7, 1, 8, and 5. Seth's going to look at the 4th race at Churchill Downs. Race 4 at Churchill. This is a maiden claimer for 2-year-olds going 6 furlongs.
Again, I was a little bit master of the obvious in the first 2 I looked at, so I wanted to find potentially a little bit of value. I have a 3, 7, 8, and 4. Majid, the number 7 for Brad Cox, probably going to take the action. We're looking at 3-1. I think that's favored. Yeah, in the field of 12, that's the morning line favorite. It's Zayat. It's Brad Cox. It's a horse that started the career in the barn of Todd Pletcher. But there are some reasons to maybe take a little bit of shot against this one. I have it right underneath, but goes maiden special weight to maiden claiming, and not just maiden claiming, maiden 15. you toss that in with the fact that they paid earlier this year, at a 2-year-old auction earlier this year, $295,000. Career start number 3, they're coming for $15,000. So some of that American Pharoah money has gone out the window on this one. You toss in also the first couple of starts, trouble at the break. That's always, a little red flag for me until horses can kind of show that that's more the exception than the rule. So again, I have the 7 right underneath. I won't be surprised if the horse runs well, but I think there are some reasons to maybe take a little shot again. So for me on top, John Paul Jones. First 3 starts, showed a little bit of life number-wise as compared to the others in this field that have run. Probably has to step it up, however. Not much, but at least a little. And I think that's possible with the additional class relief on Sunday afternoon. Comes down from Woodbine off a couple of turf races and a synthetic race. We'll see if this horse maybe appreciates the dirt at Churchill, but I just found it interesting that Kenneth Sarah Ramsey, Mike Maker, they were up at Woodbine with this one. Now they come down to Churchill and get some class relief and try the dirt. 6-1 on the morning line with Tyler Gaffalione on board. I think John Paul Jones might be a little bit interesting. And then Truly Stellar, maiden special weight to maiden claiming, coming in from Presque Isle Downs at 9-2. And Noble Venture from Steve Asmussen, first time out of the box, 12-1 on the morning line. Not the second time out of the box, excuse me, but that 12-1 I think we'll get because of the first effort. Pretty well beaten that day. I have a feeling we might get an improved performance in start number 2 from Noble Venture. But as I say, I think that first race will keep our odds where we would like them to be. So for me in the 4th at Churchill, maybe you can play around a little bit here because I think once we get past the favorite, there will be some value. The 4th at Churchill, 3, 7, 8, and 4. All right, going to head to a break. When we come back, Chad Summers. We'll talk a little Mind Your Biscuits, retired earlier this week, the money winningest New York bred of all time with over $4 million in the bank. We'll talk a little bit about the career of Mind Your Biscuits with trainer Chad Summers right after this. Stay tuned.
To me, it's a privilege to be able to do this, and I mean that sincerely. And we see the need for it more and more. And when you do see the people that are in line for the turkeys, it makes it all well worth it.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player? To have a better knowledge of the game? To be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? To know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Come on!
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
In here on this Sunday morning with Racing Across America. We're reaching out to Chad Summers, talk a little Mind Your Biscuits. As soon as we get him connected, we will plug him in. Also some news from this week. This should be interesting. I think it's December 3rd. It's the Wednesday leading up to those international races in Hong Kong. Javier Castellano, be the U.S. representative. Those international jockey challenges, they don't do anything like that here in this country, but they do in some of the other venues. Europe has a couple of similar type of things, but Hong Kong every year has one that's a lot of fun, and typically there is some kind of U.S. representative in and amongst the mix. And this year, again, in a couple of weeks, it will be Javier Castellano. I think the game plan is typically, I think the horses are randomly selected, and there's 3 races and a point system, obviously. And with horses being randomly selected, you're kind of at the mercy of the draw as to what your point total is and how well you do. They're always fun, but again, if it's a random draw, you can wind up with
Right.
3 20-to-1 shots potentially.
Right, but it's a lot of fun probably for the bettors there, and as you said, the random drawing. You have no control, or you don't know anything about the horses you're about to ride, so it makes things a lot interesting. And Javier, I think all he needs is quick instructions in the paddock, like this is what you got to do, and he'll get it done. So very cool that Javier's over there representing the United States.
Yeah, and again, it's interesting that interesting to watch in that lead up to that International Day in Hong Kong, because that's a big day of racing, and it kind of kicks it off over there in Hong Kong in the middle of the night here. So you can keep up with it, I'm sure, social media and whatnot. But it'll be fun to see. It's always fun to, next day you can wake up and keep up with it too, but just to kind of see what he did, what our representative did, because they typically get, I think Ryan Moore's going over this year, maybe Christophe Soumillon. I read the whole list, I've forgotten what it was now, but it should be a very, very interesting day there with, again, 3 races as part of that International Jockeys Challenge. Still waiting? Any update from? Okay, we're still shooting for Chad Summers. Maybe our game plan is maybe we can just pull up that Golden Shaheen, and we can talk a little bit about that while we wait for Chad, because that was a phenomenal race. I showed it yesterday in its entirety because Brian Nadeau and I talked about it on the Handicappers Report. He's not in the picture here, and doesn't come in the picture really until they cross the 200-meter mark. And this was the Golden Shaheen from earlier this year in Dubai, and we'll see Mind Your Biscuits come into the picture right there. And you still think they're less than 200 meters. You still think, well, this isn't going to happen. You still think this isn't going to happen, and then gets up there. But more incredibly, A, New York bred winning over in Dubai, but B, this was the second time he won this race.
Right. Excuse me, defending champion. The defending champion was Mind Your Biscuits there. And that was just a really stacked race there, too. You had XY Jet out of the Jorge Navarro barn. Esmir Jaramillo came over to ride. And then Roy H., as we know, what Roy H. is capable of doing and has done. The winner of the Breeders' Cup a couple weeks ago. So that field was really, really stacked. And they won 2 races, as you said, defending champion of that race, and went on to run well in the Met Mile the next time out. So, again, that was probably the most impressive performance I can remember from Mind Your Biscuits' career.
Yeah, it was just, again, it was one of those races, Brian Nadeau said it best. You can have watched it 5 or 6 times, but you pull it up, you still wonder if he's going to win the race as they come down the stretch there. So again, the career, and I'm just looking at the PPs here, the career for Mind Your Biscuits, 25 starts, 8 wins, 10 seconds, 3 thirds, $4.2 million, again, making him the richest New York bred in history. That's what happens when you win 2 races over in Dubai, worth a couple $1 million. But just a phenomenal story from the beginning. They paid $47,000 for him, turned it into $4 million. Chad, his dad, his brother, they were all part of the ownership group. Sal Cumin eventually bought in, and some other partners, and then the breeding operation from Japan bought in, and eventually he's now going to head over there to Japan. I think the game plan is kind of to wind him down, send him to a farm in Kentucky, and then send him over to Japan. And I hear now in my ear, I believe we do have Chad Summers. Chad, good morning.
Hey, Seth, how are you?
Very good. Happy to have you on board. And I'm in here this morning with Sully Crotty, and I said at the top of the show, wanted to reach out to you after the news earlier this week about Mind Your Biscuits and the retirement and take a few minutes to reflect. First, just give us this week and what the game plan was and how it played out this week after the workout.
Yeah, just we're looking to kind of get him his first work back from the Breeders' Cup and looking at either the Clark, which is going to be next Friday, or the Cigar Mile on December 1st. And just kind of a routine gallop into the breeze. He wasn't showing that same energy, and rather than push him just to make the race, we thought that the better thing would just be to kind of leave it alone and, be happy with the career that he had.
Go back also a couple of weeks ago to the Breeders' Cup. I'm sure that had to be a disappointment for you, but what was your takeaway from that race?
Yeah, severely disappointed. Everything had gone exactly according to our plan, basically since we had arrived in Kentucky, and he was training as well as anyone according to, most of those clock reports and things of that nature. And we were excited about the race, and the race kind of unfolded exactly how we thought it would. And he never really picked up the bit. He never was really into the race, and Tyler kind of felt that he didn't feel like he had the same horse that he normally did, so he just kind of took care of him rather than try and beat him up. But obviously, shocked would be the first word that came to mind.
And particularly with those early fractions, as you watch those, you had to feel like, oh, we're in a good spot.
No, from the time he left the gate, and after about a quarter mile, it didn't look like him.
Yeah.
And so it was more of concern than it was even looking at the fractions or looking at where anybody else was in the race. We had a pretty good feeling right away that he wasn't himself, and came back to the barn and drank 3 buckets of water and was blowing for 45 minutes and just feel like he might have had just a bad reaction to the Lasix, unfortunately.
Yeah, interesting. So now what's the game plan? How does he transition from on the track and working out earlier this week? How's he transition from there to Japan?
Yeah, it's just a letdown process at this point. He'll stay with us for a week or two and just kind of let down and gradually back off his feet a little bit and just kind of, keep walking him 2 or 3 times a day just to keep him happy, but no more training. And he'll head off to Darby Dan Farm a little bit after Thanksgiving, and he's got to do some quarantine over there, some stallion quarantine, things they did with Drefong last year. And then he'll head for Japan on January 8th. He'll fly over there, and he'll take a ferry up to the Shad-Eye Stallion Station and join their other 30 stallions over there.
And I'm guessing you're going to miss him, not just because of a horse like this is just important to any barn, but it was fun to see you, video of you over the years. And the Hennigan brothers did a great job with that All-In series that led to the Breeders' Cup, and part of that was covering the Whitney, and there was a video of you there and some other spots, as I say, just interacting with the horse who seemed to have a great personality.
Yeah, it basically became my second son. I spent almost every day with him for the last 4.5 years, so it's going to be a big adjustment for me. There's a face that you come to see every morning, every day, every evening, and it's no longer going to be there. So that adjustment period will be tough, and I'm going to go to Japan with him and make sure he settles in well, and we'll make trips over there about once a year and make sure we attend the yearling sale and maybe try to buy a couple of his babies.
Very nice. And I pulled up some video from the internet yesterday. This goes back to the Keeneland January sale of 2014, and Mind Your Biscuit sells for $47,000. Now, this wasn't the sale to you guys. I guess you guys, it was a subsequent sale where the horse didn't go through the ring at the reserve price. Explain how the horse transitioned from the sale at this January Keeneland of 2014 to get into your barn.
So he sold in Keeneland January there for $47,000 in a partnership that was Mockmar Hall of Carrie Brogdon and Imagine Stables down in Florida, Marnie and them over there, and they bought the horse to Pinhook, and basically they saw it was a New York bred that was a good physical with an okay page. Thought that maybe the horse was in the wrong sale, and they take it over to the Fasig Tipton sale up in New York in Saratoga. And at that sale, it was funny because Carrie sells under Select Sales, and they had so many New York breds in their program that they couldn't fit in one barn. So they built a temporary tent, which was outside, for those familiar with Saratoga, where the old feedlot was, which is now
Sure.
The Saratoga Special Headquarters. but they built a temporary barn, and you couldn't really see their horses get a good walk, and thankfully that worked out for us because, we liked the horse but weren't really sure, and when we saw him in the back ring, he had a huge walk and a great presence on him, but it was kind of late in the game, so we just watched that he didn't sell for the $47,000. At that point, me, my dad, and my brother, along with Susie Montaigne, bought out Imagine's half of the horse, and we're like, all right, well, we know why we feel he didn't sell at the yearling sale here. Let's take him to the 2-year-old sale to pinhook him. And that was the original plan, was to take him to the OBS April sale and see if he would sell for a good profit. And fortunately, he RNA'd for that same $47,000 again.
It's funny the way things work out in life. And talk a little bit about then transitioning. You go to the racetrack, and when do you and Dad and your brother kind of realize, oh, we have something really special here?
I kind of thought it the first time I went down to the farm to watch him train. We had him doing it off the track that would end up winning the Grade 1 Mother Goose later on, and a few others. And right away he kind of stood out on the farm, and we loved him. And the week before the sale, the 2-year-old sale, he actually prepped Breeze, and he went in 10 flat. He saw another horse in front of him, and he ran him down. Fortunately, it was kind of buried late in the day, and he worked 10-3 on the actual sale that everybody sees him work at. But we always thought he had a lot of talent, and the funny story was, I didn't know who I was going to give to train him at first. So actually, Joe Sharp was his first trainer in principle. But Joe wanted to train him in Kentucky at the Churchill Downs Training Center, and we wanted him up in New York. So we ended up just moving him to Roderick Rodriguez, who had most of my other horses at that time, and we had him in Calder for a little while, and then we brought him up to Saratoga, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and folks may not realize that, but you weren't the trainer at the beginning. You got your trainer's license kind of the middle of his career, I guess, and had the 2 trips over to Dubai, and a little bit earlier, and maybe the guys can pull it up again, we showed the Golden Shaheen from this year. And, to have a horse like this who takes you to those international venues and then to run the way he did. Talk a little bit about, because we've talked about it this weekend with the announcement of the retirement. Brian Nadeau and I were on the Handicappers Report yesterday and said, you can watch the replay of this race 5 or 6 times, and you still don't think he's going to get up there. Talk about your reaction to the Golden Shaheen this year as they came down the stretch.
Yeah, until you get the check 45 days after the race, I wasn't sure he won either, to be honest with you. So it's one of those things where he was training well going into the race, and we watched the earlier races on the card, and the Galafin Mile had gone to heavy metal, and he was kind of right on the lead and was much the best. And then the Arabian race was one close to the pace, and then we watched Mendelssohn. And at the time, obviously, we knew who Mendelssohn was, but as a turf horse, and he kind of made the lead. And there was a filly Rhea that would end up with Bob Baffert later on, and she's on the inside in second. And the fact that, she was dreadful that day, and she still managed to hold second. That's when we really got concerned that there was really going to be a speed-biased track. And so we kind of changed the strategy. We had post 1, which had been well for most of the meet, but we didn't like the fact that the kickback was no good, and we knew XY Jet, who was breaking to our outside, was going to be faster than us. So we just kind of broke and made XY Jet kind of hustle, and then we got outside, giving up a lot of space as well, and we're coming with that kick, and at the time it looks like at best we're going to finish 3rd, and then maybe about 70 yards to go we're going to finish 2nd, and that's good because we'll beat Roy H, and that's we really want to beat Roy H, and if Navarro wins, we're happy for him. And then all of a sudden the wire comes, and I didn't really realize we won, I think, until I saw Scott Hazelton's face, and Scott was there working the world feed, and his jaw just kind of dropped, and he's looking at me like he can't believe what he just saw with his own eyes, and I can't believe it either. And we were very, very happy. But he's a horse that loves what he does, and that was maybe the most exciting finish of all of 2018, and it's backed up through the rest of the year. Obviously, XY Jet did what he did, coming back to Calder and winning the Smile Stakes, and Roy H ends up winning the Breeders' Cup Sprint. So, from top to bottom, it ended up being a really, really good field. Jordan Sport we'll see later this year, and Matera Sky from Japan, he ended up winning another 3 or 4 races. So it was a very, very competitive race.
Yeah, it was just amazing. And again, you can watch it 5 or 6 times, and you're still jaw-dropping is a great description of it. Let's watch a couple other races and get some comments from this year and go back to the Whitney. And again, the Hennigan brothers did a great job with that All-In series and captured what was just a fluky day. For folks who don't remember, there was a weather delay, and the horses had already been saddled up and had to walk around in the paddock, and There was interviews being done with you and connections of other horses to fill time and whatnot, and then went to the track, and now you have an off track, and Diversify just went out and did what Diversify does. But Mind Your Biscuits, the number 4 horse, makes a nice run, and on the turn you think, oh, he's going to get there, and then you think he may get swallowed up. But this was a pretty gutsy performance because he does not give up and holds on to run second in a try at 2 turns that was really a test for you guys. Give us your feelings as you watch the stretch run of the Whitney this year.
Whitney, just a crazy day, an absolutely bonkers day. And, you talk about the Hennigan brothers. It'd be funny if they released the bloopers version or the version that they don't show, because I was mic'd the whole time in the paddock, and some of those conversations probably weren't made for Facebook. But, you see rain delays happen in other sports. You don't really see them happen in horse racing, and not of the 43-minute variety. So, he's not a horse that really loves the paddock in the first place. We think that didn't help him that much. And the way the track was playing that day, come from behinders were great the whole day. We were so excited about the race. And then they go and they seal the track. And I walked the track while we're waiting for them to come back on the track. And it had rained so much that they sealed the track twice in that 43-minute span. And there's still about a half inch of rain on top of the seal. And so if you watch the replay of the race and you see the stretch there, all the horses, even Diversify, who was as brilliant as he was, they're struggling at the end of the race. The outside, like the 6th path, is really where you want to be. And Manny Franco, to his credit, kind of found that with Discreet Lover. And, finally Joel kind of angled out. And that's when we were able to kind of fight back and gain a little traction and hold on to second. Discreet Lover would come back and win the Jockey Cup Gold Cup. And to me, I think it just kind of signifies the embodiment of what he was. He was a fighter, and there's only one horse ever in any race he's ever run in, outside, of course, the Breeders' Cup Classic and the Forgo, that ever passed him from the stretch on, and that was after the wire and it was sharp as second in the Malibu. Otherwise, no horse has ever passed him in the stretch in any one of his races besides those other 2.
Yeah, that's a great point about Discreet Lover. Came back and won the stake down in New York and impressed there. I finally want to take a look at the Lucas Classic because, again, coming out of the Whitney, there were still question marks, obviously, about the 2 turns, but you went down to Churchill, wanted to get a race over the track leading into the Breeders' Cup, and the Lucas Classic, September 29th. Mind Your Biscuits is going to be the number 6 horse here. And finally and firmly answers the 2-turn question, winning by a chart margin of just under 5 lengths. Your impressions here of this race?
That we were finally right. Just a little vindication. I mean, it always felt like, there's a lot of people on social media that apparently they're all Charlie Whittingham's brothers, sisters, and everything else.
Yeah,
but
you nailed it.
I mean, we've always thought that he can go 2 turns, and even if you look at the Breeders' Cup Classic, he would have got beat for 35 that day. It didn't matter that we ran in the Classic instead of the mile of the sprint. He just wasn't himself. But to me, that Lucas Classic was the signature win, even though it's a grade 3. It was just a signature win and almost a fitting stamp of what was his career, that he could go the 2 turns, that he could be a grade 1 winner at 6 and 7 and stretch that speed out to the 9 furlong mark. And I mean, he was so much the best that day, and Honorable Duty was doing really good. He had run second in the Stephen Foster right before that. And, some of those other horses, it wasn't the toughest field, but he did what he was supposed to do, and he galloped out great, and Tyler never touched him with the whip at all. And I mean, he just showed that he just loved to run, and he loved Churchill Downs, and he handled that track so well. And that's what really kind of shocked us about the Classic, because it wasn't the track, because we knew how much he liked the track.
Yeah, it just clearly was one of those fluky kind of things, but leaves the scene with $4.2 million in the bank, the richest New York bred of all time. A couple of Horse of the Year, New York bred Horse of the Year trophies, and there's probably some other hardware waiting for him this year at the New York Bred Awards.
I'll tell you what, that's going to be a tough one. I don't know. I mean, Diversify certainly had
you're right.
Four-star Crook. I mean, that list goes on and on. Giant Expectations. That's a deep field of New York breds as the program every year continues to get stronger and stronger. And the one thing I'll take away too, Seth, about the Whitney real quick is as much as it hurts to lose, I was happy for Rick Violet to get that win in the Whitney. And with a horse like Diversify, who he always believed in so much, I mean, he trained him for other people first, and then was able to buy him back at the sale and go on and make him into the horse that he's become. I mean, all the credit to Rick on Diversify as well.
Yeah, well said. Rick will certainly be missed around the track, as will Mind Your Biscuits in your barn. And just before we let you go, Chad, I'll let you sum up, if you can. You know, again, two-time New York Bred Horse of the Year, $4 million in the bank. As I say, your training career kind of started out mid-career with him, and you've had him with a couple of wins in Dubai and some of the other nice races we just took a look at. You, your dad, your brother, part of the ownership group. Just talk a little bit about, again, as I said, if you can, what Mind Your Biscuits meant to you.
Well, just one of the smartest horses I've ever been around, if not the smartest. And he's a blue-collar horse that showed that you can take a horse that if you believe in and willing to kind of block out the outside noise and accomplish amazing things. And, you know, you have to have the horse and the team to do it, but if given that opportunity, it does exist. And, you know, he's a movie, and, you know, we'll always be so thankful and so grateful for everything that he stood for and everything that he did, and can't wait to see his babies on the track.
Yeah, it'll be fun, certainly. And again, Chad, congratulations to you and the entire team on the career of Mind Your Biscuits. If I'm not mistaken, I saw you had a couple in at Gulfstream today, right?
Yeah, we're down here. Let's see, got that filly designing. She's going to run here, and then December 29th in the stake, and then she'll be in the January sale at Keeneland. She's got a huge pedigree, half to Reading Colliery. And Rose Pass, little 2-year-old filly we bought for $8,000 at the June sale. That she might need one more, but she's one that we'll hear from more at Gulfstream down the line in the wintertime. Very good.
And again, Chad, congratulations to you, the family, the other partners and whatnot on the really brilliant career of Mind Your Biscuits. Again, as you kind of we've alluded to already, just another one of those exclamation points on the New York Bred program that really kind of blossomed, as you said, this summer at Saratoga, not just the Whitney, but some of the other stakes up there as well, and Mind Your Biscuits, a huge part of that. Chad, really appreciate the visit this morning, and again, congratulations on the career of Mind Your Biscuits.
You got it. Thanks, Seth. Thanks a lot, guys.
Chad Summers, trainer of Mind Your Biscuits, and again, as we saw in some of those races and just talking about it, obviously meant a lot to Chad and his family and the other partners, but the New York Bred program as well, and just as fans, meant a lot to us when you watch a race like that Golden Shaheen, which is a fan, you just don't see that often. So when you do, that becomes one of those memorable races that you check off and put in your back pocket to refer to years down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, it's just as you know, he kind of already talked about, a really cool story. It's great for New York racing and the New York Breds. So, and as you said, there is some really nice New York Breds that raced this year. But first one that has to come to mind, or one of the first ones, is definitely Mind Your Biscuits. So, just congratulations and a great career.
Yeah. All right, we'll wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America, the Sunday edition. I'll be back in an hour or so with OTB Live for a Sunday afternoon. Don't forget, you can always stop down here at the Clubhouse Racebook on Sundays for NFL Sundays. Watch all the games, catch all the racing action every Sunday afternoon during the football season right here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. 3% bonus days continue this month on Churchill Wagers with your Capital OTB Bets account. There are some restrictions. Check out the website for more information there. And that do have to give you another reminder. Spread the word around if you know folks who may benefit from the turkey giveaway here at the Clubhouse Racebook on Wednesday. That'll be 11 a.m. right here, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. 1,200 turkeys given away for a fourth or fifth consecutive year, thanks to our friend Roddy Valente and family for their sponsorship and their generosity of the turkey giveaway. And down at the bottom of the screen, you see some of the other sponsors as well. We appreciate their participation. But Sully, you've seen it as well. Yeah. It's a big day here at the Clubhouse Racebook the last few years. Yeah. They line up early, and it's great, the holiday season to have the generosity, as I say, of Roddy and family, and the turkey giveaway coming up 11 a.m. on Wednesday.
Yeah, this is my second year actually being a part of it, and it really is. And, from what I hear, it just gets bigger and bigger every year. So, again, thank you to Roddy and thank you to all the other sponsors here. It really is a great thing. And as you said, they go quick, and there's a lot of people here. So, families in need, but now there's 200 more birds than last year. So.
Very good. Turkey giveaway, 11 a.m. Wednesday here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. All right, again, going to wrap things up. Be back in an hour or so with OTB Live for Sunday afternoon. Sully, thanks and good luck.
Good luck to you.
And good luck to all of you. See you in an hour or so.
You're watching OTB TV. a service of Capital Off Track Betting.